3. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Victory Life Legacy Spotlight. As you all know, we always bring great guests, and today I have a great guest in the building, a friend of mine, a good friend, a coach I have the deepest amount of admiration and respect for, and someone I love talking not just basketball with, but life in general. I have the head basketball coach at Osbourn High School, Coach Rocky Carter. How you doing, Coach?
Coach, I'm beautiful, man. Thank you very much for asking me to be on. It's honest to God, it's an honor to be here. I'm so blessed. This is awesome.
Yeah, man, this is awesome. And I know we've had some issues trying to get connected because you and I are both busy out here trying to make a difference and with our jobs and our mentoring, our coaching. But this has been a long time coming, and what better time to get you on as hopefully, Lord willing, fingers crossed, the basketball season approaches. So, Coach, man, on these episodes, I get guys and women on, and we talk about their legacy, the impact they have on the community, as I've told you before. And with you, you've had the impact, through the game of basketball. You're a coach who I love, watch coaching. I always credit you when my son several years ago was a youngin'. He was playing football and basketball, and he started to fall in love with the game of basketball. And it was your camp I took him to when he was going to 6th grade. And ever since then, even though you won't be able to coach him because of where we go to school at, he has a lot of respect for you. We're going to be coaching some of my other players also who I coach. But before we talk about basketball and the impact you had on the court, I want to know about you. Let's talk about where you're from. Did you play ball? And who were some of the people that influenced you? So let's talk about that.
I was born and raised in Arlington, single mom, sisters were given away. So I grew up in a neighborhood where we did have other kids. And you just followed along the older kids that were there. We actually only had one or two. And then for whatever reason, I got into basketball. And I loved that. I played all 3 sports. Basketball was by far my favorite sport.
What were the other sports, Coach? The other 2 sports?
With baseball and football.
Okay.
Right. I'll play all 3. And basketball was the end all with me. It was a beautiful game. I could go play at any time, even though there wasn't a basket. I always had a ball. I didn't need a hoop. And when I went over to TJ in the 6th grade with Long Branch, I was involved with the busing in 70, 71. So when I went to Long Branch and then TJ, it was basketball 24/7.
Yeah.
24/7.
Yeah. So when you talk about the game of basketball and, you went to TJ and how much you love the game, talk about some of the players you like watching. I know you're a little bit older than me and, but at the same time, the game of basketball is transcended where if you're a great player, I can pop his game on right now. Were there some players that you admired that you used to watch or check for, or were there some coaches you like to watch coach at that time?
I actually had the privilege to meet John Thompson when he was hired at Georgetown. Now, you got to remember when you're 10 years old, and this man walks in, he's 6'10". He walked into a restaurant that in Virginia at that time was not accepting of Black people. Okay. Now, Georgetown was still playing in what they call the Presidential Classic. Okay. And that was over at Fort Myer Gym. And that was AU, GW, Georgetown, and Catholic. Catholic was a Division I program at that time. So after one of the games, I'm assuming the bus had went home or what have you. I walk into the restaurant. My mother was a waitress there, and there's Big John. God bless him. And I mean, when you're a 10-year-old, he's like God, because I knew who he was. And I said, "Hi." He said, "Sir," nodded his head, and I just thought I'd seen God. John Thompson is my favorite coach of all time. Okay, him, John Chaney, because of how they love their kids. If you were to talk to Ernest Graham right now, he would still say that to this day, even though he did not believe that at the time that he was kicked off the team. But Coach Thompson he's the one who influenced me the most. Players wise, Kermit Washington
Mm.
was my favorite player because I used to go see him play, and he was the first 2020, and he was undersized for a center, and he married Pat Carter, cheerleader. And I'll never forget that in Fort Myer, we used to go watch GW play. Okay. And we used to watch AU. They shared the gym. And Mark Olson his mother had a pass. So that would always get us in, an Army pass. And we wanted to be cool like them. Okay. This is still like the Vietnam War. It's getting ready to wind down. So people didn't stand up for the national anthem.
Mm.
So their GW's playing first. It's a doubleheader. All of AU's people are, Pete DeHaven, Bob Rosenthal, all these guys are sitting down, and me and Mark are sitting together talking with Kermit, and national anthem comes on. Well, they're not standing up. We're not standing up. And Kermit said, get up. Yo, everybody, up. Just like that. All the players stood up for the national anthem. We stood up for the national anthem.
Wow.
Yes. And it was a beautiful thing. That's something I'll never forget. He didn't have to do that, but he only did that because you had two kids there. And he made us stand up, and he made his teammates. He was a very highly respected. He's the one player that I first remember as a basketball player. He gave me his jersey, his last practice. I get goosebumps now. He would not know me if I ran into him with my car.
Really?
But yes, but I tell you what, I look a little different. But he was the greatest man, and I'll never forget back then, Dwight, they didn't have live TV for the NBA games.
Mm-hmm.
And I watched that game, the Rockets-Lakers game, and I cried because what they were saying about him wasn't true. I watched it on my black and white TV, and I cried like a baby. I can tell you what apartment it was. I can tell you it was about just before midnight, and I cried like, honest to God, I cried like the biggest baby because what they were saying about him was not true.
Mm.
He is not that guy. He is the nicest human being I guarantee he's the same way. I do understand him and Pat had gotten a divorce years ago, but he's the greatest human being, the first great human being I've ever met.
I believe you, Coach, and you talk about loving your kids and caring about your players. Obviously you coach at Osbourn High School, as I stated in the beginning of this interview, and Manassas City is a very unique area. I worked at Metz Middle School years ago. I have a great relationship with the people and students at Osbourn High School. It's a very diverse area where they deal with different issues compared to other localities in Northern Virginia. You grew up in Arlington, and I had your colleague and another great coach on this legacy spotlight, and Tony Bentley. And he talked about growing up in there, and his story was very unique. And he gave me a lot of insight because I'm initially growing up from the Toddwood area. And we had our fair share of challenges when I was growing up. He talked about how he wasn't allowed to go to certain schools and where he wanted to go. Yet I've seen you interact, not just on the court, but just with the kids in the hallways at Osbourn. You can deal with a lot of people and relate to different people from all colors and neighborhoods. But when you were growing up, it wasn't like that. When you would talk about growing up in Arlington and how John Thompson wasn't allowed to come in the restaurant, what do you remember about that time growing up? And how come you didn't become victim and succumb to the racist stuff that you saw? You tend to be more empathetic and very aware socially, but growing up, you saw people discriminated against. You heard racial slurs. What made you not engage in that kind of behavior?
Excuse me. Well, let me back up and preface the saying, but John Thompson could have gone back there if he wanted to because nobody will stop him. But I will say this, that I think the busing, me being bused over in the South Side, and in fourth grade, it was before that where the blacks that lived on South Side were brought over North Side, South Side. Then I became a pilot program, and I went over to Drew Model School that was built over there. And I remember old Jim Vance being over there interviewing, as a white kid stepped off the bus. But I credit that because everything that I had heard in the restaurant and the N word flew. It was segregated. You know, all black black people had to sit in the back in the booths. They were not allowed to come but a certain place. They were not allowed to sit in the front. They were not allowed to sit at the bar. And my mother worked there. And you don't realize, because as a young, you know, when you're 5, 6, 7 years old, you don't know any different. Everybody's the same. So when I went to when I was in 4th grade, when they had the busing, and as kids, you just intermingle. You're not seeing race or color. Now, were there some heated arguments and fights? Yeah, but nobody called anybody an N-word, and nobody, you know, they didn't call us crackers or anything like that. It was a disagreement. You know, it wasn't anything. So when it was either that year or the next year where I was on the 5th grade, when I went over to Drew, when it opened, and it was nothing like people were saying. Miss Bracy was my first teacher. She was black, and she was a beautiful human being. And then the best teacher I've ever had in my life was a Miss Pam Sidnor. And that was in 6th grade. And I just got in contact with her, tell me there's not a God in heaven. And I told her what she did for me. And I just never believed anybody. And I got my own thought processes. And you know, even when somebody at Fort Myer, I'm just going to tell you this quick story. Fort Myer, I'm the only one in the gym. There's probably it was all predominantly black, obviously, and they were service guys. And it's probably about 4 or 5 o'clock. They close at 6 on Saturdays. So I'm just shooting. I apologize.
You okay?
And, go up and front rim it, and goes all the way down across the other end. Now, it was a big, long, rectangular place, right? Yeah. So I'm on one end of the building, and it shoots back to the short end. And this guy, he looked like Shaft. He looked like the 2000 Shaft, right? This brother was big, had a long trench coat. He picked up the ball, and he said, and I said, yeah. He turned around, he punted it all the way down the end of the other building. And I said, I put my head down and just but it never occurred to me it was a race thing or anything like that. You know, because it may have entered your mind, but you're like, damn, I gotta go. Well, that's all first thing that came to my mind is like, damn, I gotta go all the way down and get that. So but those experiences I remember, because I said to myself, I will never be like that. He could have been having a bad day, but I don't put it as racial. I just don't. You know, there's a lot of people that did. No. So the busing, in short, busing is the answer. That showed me, again, people are just fear because of their ignorance, or they're not knowing. And I got an opportunity to learn so much different cultures, different. Trevor Brown, who's now coaching at Rock Creek Christian Academy. He was at NC, National Christian forever. Went over to his house over in the valley. And I said, yeah, I'll go to your house, you know. We're getting ready to go into his house. I open this fence, and he opens the door, and he's got a German Shepherd. This German Shepherd wanted to tear me up. And I thought, okay, this ain't gonna work. He goes, Carter, I'm sorry. He don't like white people. But so it goes both ways, you know. But you know, that's the greatest time I ever had. And then when I started getting in troubles, when I was bused back to go to high school at W&L, I think had I been at Wakefield and stayed there, I'd have been okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Coach, man, you know, you're a coach, and you know, we'll talk about your coaching career as far as at Osbourn here in a little bit, but how did you get into coaching? You know, because I got to tell you, you know, I coach on a lower level compared to you. I coach AAU basketball, and when I say lower level, you know, it's not high school. We're not, you know, playing in front of the same crowds, but it's still coaching. I've coached football. I've done some work on the collegiate level, so I know how hard that position is. I know you are passionate about teaching and mentoring and coaching. but it is a very challenging job. You deal with the politics, you know, schools have challenges, parents sometimes, players are entitled, not all players, but you have to wear different hats. You're a therapist one day, a mentor, a father figure. What made you say, okay, as much as I love this game of basketball, I'm going to coach? And where was your first job? Because I knew you when you came to Osbourn, but what made you get into coaching? Where'd you start off coaching at?
Wakefield High School girls.
Girls.
Yes. Yep. I wanted to. I was on the boys' side. I tried to get a job. I actually. It's funny because these guys are friends of mine. You talking about how things change in small world, but very first person I ever interviewed with was Brian Doyle, who's a legend
Yeah.
in his own right now. Has the Virginia Prep Academy, and interviewed with Mike Flugrath over at what's when his first year he got the job.
When he was at
And
Woodson,
he
was now the
was at
principal at
Woodson,
Osbourn.
principal at Osborne, and so there was a advertisement for Wakefield girls in the paper actually, and got an interview, and I was working at Xerox, and I had left the automotive industry, but I was very good at it. Right, I was good at cars, and copies were just like cars, except we have to road test. So they hired me and said, but the problem is, can you practice? We practice 2:30 to 4:30 and 4:30 to 6:30 every 2 weeks. You need to be here. Can you be there? I said, yes, ma'am. So it was funny because I had, it was July. I was sweating my tail off, and I had a collared buttoned up shirt, had the earring out. I'd shaved, I had let my hair grow out, a little bit. Um, it had everything, and I had my sleeves covered up, and I got the job. So I went to go watch them play field high a couple of times. Went to go watch play, and all of a sudden, when I went there the very first day, um, they looked at me and said, "Why are you dressed like that?" I said, "This is me." She goes, "You weren't like that 2 months ago." Um, it was Marsha Richardson and Noelle Deskins, and the way that Dwight, the way that they treated those kids. And at that time, Arlington hadn't started transformed to what it's starting to be now. Um, all those kids had to take care of the siblings, had to take care of so many different things. Well, if they wanted to play, and Marcia, um, who was a great player in her own right, University of Maryland, leading scorer before Christy Winter Scott broke it, and Noelle Deskins, they gave me my first chance, and I wasn't even going to school then. Those two are the reasons, and my experience at Wakefield High School is the reason I am a teacher. Marsha Richardson, and no question, is the reason, and Noelle Deskin is the reason why I am a coach and a teacher today. They are the ones that I knew as God is my witness. I would just watch them interact with those kids, and I'm telling you, they would jump on those kids and turn right around and put them in their arms and tell them it'll be okay, and held them accountable. And I said, that's what I want to do. So I started going to school. I signed up in my first class that year.
Wow, that's awesome, man. And that's how it works. Sometimes you learn by observation and interacting, and sometimes you learn by just doing some self-reflecting. Seems like both those things occurred when you were at that program. So, you obviously ended up at Osbourn. How did you end up even getting to Osbourn? Because again, I'm not from Northern Virginia. My wife grew up here in the 703 in Prince William County. Born in DC, came to Prince William when Manassas is not the Manassas we know now.
Right.
But she went to Stonewall, now called Unity Reed High School. But there's a culture within different pockets of Northern Virginia. Manassas City is a great community, close knit. People have been there forever. Osbourn High School, when I moved up here in the early 2000s, had a great football program, and their basketball program was just as good. Then, of course, different things happened. What drove you to Manassas City all the way to Osbourn High School? Was it you were looking for change? You wanted a different challenge? How'd you end up at Osbourn?
I just wanted a job. I wanted to be a head. I wanted to be a head coach of a basketball program, and the chances of getting hired in Fairfax at that time probably wasn't very good.
Why is that?
And I
Why is that, Coach?
Well, I think because everybody's so overly cautious, I know I had like when I coach, I yell, my voice is loud, and I could be misinterpreted on a lot of levels.
Mhm.
But I've had some very good ads, and Mark Ira DeGrood now. I'll tell you about that in a second. But Mark Martino. Um, I've been very very fortunate and to work with some good coaches, and Gary Hall and Brian Metris. But um, I did get a reputation because of how I looked. I mean, as I said in Wakefield, when I went there for the coaches meeting, now I've got an earring, I'm bald, my goatee's back. Right now they see the tats. And I said, no, it says, wait a minute, whoa, we didn't hire that joking around.
Mhm.
And, I said, she goes, I don't remember that, Marsha. Did you? No, he wasn't like that. And I said, why you say it like that? I said, now let me ask you this. Had I walked in there like that, would you have hired me? The hell no. I said, okay. But funny story, Marsha Richardson had to take out toothpick, But when I was in Fairfax, they made me put on long sleeve shirts to cover the test when I was student teaching and whatnot. But it worked, But I guess the bottom line is it's how I was perceived. Perception is reality for a lot of people, and people, Fairfax, and you see how it's changed as far as the politics and whatnot. I'm not saying politics is
No,
why,
no, it's changed. I lived in Fairfax for 4 years.
but it's
It's a very diverse county now. It's impactful. I know exactly what you mean.
ugh.
It's
So
transformed.
what I actually got an opportunity. The first time the job was open, I actually had an opportunity to go interview. So I had an interview with Coach DeGrood and that crew uh, right after Dufresne left, and so I went up there. Of course, not Waze, but Google Maps or whatever it was took you to the back of the school. You can't get in.
Yep.
So I go to the front, and I'm late. Forgot my driver's license in my desk at school. So I finally get back there, but they ended up hiring Coach Hines instead of me, which he had a pretty good resume, coming from ODU and then Charlotte, the Bobcats and whatnot. And then all of a sudden, I get a call the next. I had an interview with Centerville that was coming up, and get a phone call from my AD. He said, "Hey, look, we just had a region meeting. Osbourn looking for a coach." I said, "You mean Osbourn Park?" He goes, "No, Osbourn." He said, "Look, you want a job? You want to talk about semantics?" I said, "No." So Mark, he goes, "Well, are you going to stay after school?" He said, "Yeah, I'll come talk to you then." I said, "Okay." So he came down. He called me from his office. He said, Ira DeGrood is looking for a coach, and this time wants like to have someone a disciplinarian. He was telling us all he wanted. I think it might be good for you. I said, okay. He said, but do me a favor. And he said, be yourself. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Don't try to impress anybody. Just go be yourself. Don't worry about saying the right thing. Just go be yourself. I said, okay. So I went out there and interviewed for it. And that was it. I was excited. I was going to teach at Lake Braddock, and I was going to coach at, Osbourn. So when I go out there after he tells me I get the job, we go over, sign the contract, and he says, "Man, congratulations, you're our new PE teacher." What do you mean? The way of it wasn't even, but because I love Lake Braddock, and you're right, Osbourn was different, but I love Osbourn. I think, Ira DeGrood will never, he'll never have a true idea how I feel about him, because he gave me a chance when no other ones wanted. I mean, he just wouldn't. Nobody would give me a chance, and sometimes it's funny how things work when you don't expect it. And Osbourn is a very different place that I absolutely love. And it was funny because when I got the job, um, an administrator who I really respect said, and I got a phone call about this saying that he won't be there long because it ain't Lake Braddock. But I'd been at Wakefield and Annandale and Herndon previously. So
Hold on, let's talk about that comment right there, because I'm glad,
mhm.
because that's a good segue into my next question. Because when I had Dr. Newman on, and I've had other guests that grew up in where I'm from the Tallwood area, the notorious 757, grew up in Hampton and
Yep.
Newport News, Virginia. the world we live in, and it's going to be this way until you and I are both gone. And it's going to always be this way. We deal with labels, and I worked at Metz in 2008. And Manassas City has a strong Hispanic presence. They also have Black and white students and residents. I love the diversity that Northern Virginia brings. I love Manassas City, and I love Prince William County, where I live and reside. But the reality is we deal with labels. And I had Coach Honore on, and he's on Route 1 at Potomac High School, and he talks about the labels they deal with. Talk about that comment about it's not Lake Braddock and what you've seen in Osbourn since you've coached and taught there. Maybe address some of the stereotypes and misconceptions people have about Osbourn and Manassas City, because I speak on all the time, and I'm well respected. I know my platform, but you also have the insight because you actually work there and you see those kids. I mean, this is pre-COVID when you were in the building. But just address some of that stuff, because that does get me a little bit fired up, because I know coming from Newport News and Hampton, we dealt with those labels and we still do. And I'm grown.
It doesn't end to this day. Okay. I can tell you that I did take offense to it because of how early on, when I was there my first year, okay, we had to, there were some changes I had to make, no question. But that was basketball changes. They weren't personnel changes. And what I mean by that is those kids at our school, I grew up just like a lot of them. And just had a mom who gave away my siblings. I related to those kids so much. I love Osbourn High School dearly. I always did. We were in a bad place a couple years ago. And before that, even before that, when I started there, people asked me, "You left Braddock, where are you at now?" Osbourn. Osbourn Park in Prince William? No, Osbourn. Why? That's exactly what they said. I swear to God. One of them was, she's no longer there, so I can say this. Her name was Miss Tyson. She was a Robinson principal secretary. And she just said, she just wants to, why? And then when I see her a couple years later, she says, "Are you back in Fairfax?" I said, "No," because we were coming down to tournament. I mentioned Lake Braddock tournament. She says, "Are you still at Osbourn?" She says, "Yes." She goes, "Why haven't you left?" And it's just what people see and what people hear. I was blessed to speak at Lions Club, I don't know, a few years ago. And they asked me, "What does Osbourn need?" Because I asked them to come see us, watch us. Come, everybody says we're, negativity, right, about Osbourn. I said, just come see what goes on in the hall. So this is probably my third year there. And I said, we just need support. Your supporters, come see what our teachers do. Come see what our kids are about. And daggone if some of them didn't come. And, it doesn't have to do so much with race, in my opinion, as does the social economically, that you face. And those kids, a lot of them don't have a lot. And I understand about alcohol and drugs in the home and not having a father. And mom being drunk all the time and not coming home, having no discipline, can do whatever you want to do, and that's tough. And back then, Dwight, we didn't have the resources we have now. I was in and out of psychiatrists from 8 years old on, so I'm blessed and to be a part of a school. I'm blessed that we have Dr. Newman. There's nothing I can tell you to give you an idea of where we were at as a school and as a city, and morale was, and then where we are today. And Mike Pflugrath, he came in. I don't know how Fairfax let him go. Don't care. Don't care.
Yeah, Mike's my guy, man.
dude. I mean, we're such a great school system. Now we're not perfect, but we've got the leaders in place. We have great leadership, and we just got a man who from again, and I can't tell you how many people called me from Fairfax saying, "You got Flugrath, you got Tim Thomas, you got this, you got." What are y'all doing? I said, "Don't ask me. I'm just glad we got him." you know. So, but with Mike Flugrath and now Dr. Brent, I mean, it's like you could talk to them like we're talking here, and it's easy to forget that they're in the positions that they are. But there's no stuff with them, Dwight. They saved our city. And but anyway, I can relate to the kids. I apologize, ADD moment, having to take my meds, but
No, it's okay. It's okay. I know I share the same admiration for those kids and for that community and kids in Woodbridge that are getting the same labels, and even kids in Fairfax and in DC. I've done work in DC, so you and I have always vibed about that. And I love the fact that you get it because it goes beyond the PE classroom, fifth period. It goes beyond the court. I'm not gonna make this about my kids, but I do want to say something. I do want to ask you, Coach. You mentioned this, and you and I have grown close over the years, but we're still getting to learn a lot about each other, which is what I enjoy. I don't want to gloss over this because you mentioned in the beginning, and you just did again. Your mom gave your sisters away. I don't want to dive too much into that, but just for the people that want to watch this interview, and even myself, was it foster care or she just abandoned them? Not to get too deep, but I know that's a
no. That's okay.
traumatic
That's okay.
situation.
No, I have no problem talking about this. I don't.
Okay.
I my sisters are much older than me. My mom gave birth at 18 and she gave birth at 40. So, but Mary Fran's the oldest. She gave her away to her mother, my
Okay.
mother's mother. Linda was born and she gave them away to her ex-husband's family in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh. So we never knew each other. Uh, my dad, I never knew. He left when I was 2, and mom was. It's funny because I never knew about how my mother felt about black people because I was always raised by black people. you know, uh, but that was down the road. I just never put 2 and 2 together. Like, wait a minute, what you got? What? So my mother had boyfriends. She dated married guys. You know, for a good while. Um, she liked to play. I mean, I used to joke. I joke around and she fit in real good today. But she shouldn't have kids. She worked her tail off, but she liked the bottle. I mean, she liked to have a good time. She liked to go out dancing, and there was a time that there were a lot of times I was by myself until 4 o'clock in the morning, and I knew growing up if she wasn't home by 5:30 off that bus, she wasn't coming home, and she'll be drunk. I mean, I could. She'd be doing Avon, pouring vodka and milk, White Russian, you know. And she would. When I say she shouldn't have kids, I shouldn't. I don't mean to come across as. I'm just being real with you. I don't want to seem. I am grateful I had a roof over my head. I had money for pinball, but there's so much that I missed out. I mean, she dated some hairy cats. It wasn't. She dated some hairy cats, and dude, it was. Frank would come pick me up. He'd be mad at her, have a 38 in his pocket. We're gonna go find your mom. I'm like, damn, here we go. And I'm like 10 years old. I'm like, what? And the fights they had, man, it was. So that's how I grew up, and I always said to myself that I'll never do my kids like that. And my mom was always the guilt trip lady, put you on a guilt trip. Um, Man, we had roaches, we had dog that peed on the floor all the time.
Yeah, yeah,
She'd fall asleep on the toilet. We got one bathroom. Like, really? Can we get up, please?
yeah, man.
But I don't. my life was very different compared to what other people have with siblings and whatnot. It just was very, very. My dad didn't know him. Started to get to know him when I was 18. Swear to God, he used to come visit me, Dwight, and he would have a fifth in his back pocket. Right? My mom wouldn't let him in. My mom wouldn't. I had to go outside the hallway, and she would come out and tell him to leave. I never got to meet my dad, and then I want to say I was dating this girl Debbie, and we're just running through the thing. This is probably when I was 17. Dwight, I found a shoebox of freaking letters from him.
Oh.
A shoebox of letters from him. And the address, ironically, was RCA in Woodbridge, Virginia. I guess there used to be a rehabilitation center for alcoholics somewhere in Woodbridge. And I went, damn. So my mom came home and I said, what is this? She says, where did you get those? Under your bed. Why are you under my bed? What is this?
Yeah.
You know, and she said, well, your dad was no good. Your dad was a rotten SOB. And she was just, I said, wait a minute. I read his letters. And my sister never forgave my mother for that. And so I got to know him. We wanted to go watch a couple Redskins games, which I'm not a Redskins fan. And damn, if he didn't hang himself the third week that we were getting to know each other.
Suicide.
Yes, he committed suicide. And I didn't know him, which I guess was a good thing, you know. So I think of all those things, but I don't regret a single thing of what I've been through, because I wouldn't be the person who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't be able to relate to some of the kids that I can now. Or I would like to think I can. And we just don't, sometimes we don't stop and think what people go through. We just, you know, that's why I hate the way people talk on social media. I got off Facebook. I still have it, but I don't get on it. Twitter's gotten bad, man.
Oh, Twitter.
You know,
well,
it's gotten crazy.
Twitter,
you know, and but
that.
there's some fantastic young people. We just don't take the time to listen to them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, Coach, you do listen to them. One thing my son said several years ago, when he was at one of your basketball camps, I think he went to 2 or 3 of them at Osbourn during the summer, is he was there. You know, a lot of guys I used to coach in youth football were at that camp that went to Mayfield and Metz. And I would always ask my son, even if he goes to other camps, what did you learn today? How was it? How'd you do? And he would always come back home and talk about quotes and how you were in control of the room and how you didn't want guys bouncing the ball while you talked and how eyes on me. And he said one particular memory stood out to him is your varsity players came in and they were supposed to be helping you with the camp. A lot of them were there. A few guys came in late and they were also talking loudly, cursing, sagging, just, you know, some, you know, teenage stuff. You didn't judge them, but you went over there and you asked them why they were late. And then you asked them about what was going on, had a conversation with them. Then my son said you proceeded to say, you know what? You put them all out of the gym. And then you and I, as we've grown closer, we've had conversations where you talk about, you know what? I'm hearing guys are skipping classes, not doing this. The gym's closed. On some, ironically, on some Coach Carter, like the movie with Samuel L. Jackson, where he locked the gym because he was coaching the city of Richmond out in, you know, on the West Coast, and he felt that we need to be bigger than just the game of basketball. You have that same persona, you have that same impact, and everyone doesn't always appreciate that. Some parents think it should just be basketball, no matter what's going on academically or behaviorally. You've chosen the path of accountability. When it comes to that, you know, is that hard for you to be consistently accountable, not just with yourself, but with your student athletes and even kids you teach? Is that something they need to learn despite your love and admiration for those kids?
No.
Okay.
God taught me a lesson where I did not do that in the AAU game because we were in a big tournament and I played a couple of kids that had gotten in trouble and we were upset by a very weak team. And I'll never forget that. We lost when we finished, we played Stonewall for this the playing. That wasn't a playing game. It was a I forgot what it was, 3-4, whatever it was, um, to go to regionals, and we were going to play in the championship game. Oh, it was semifinals, and our center at that time wanted to use my class. He was a teacher's aide to go study on another class. I said absolutely. So I gave him a pass, went up there. Um, hadn't come back. I called the teacher. She says, I saw him. He only came in, he got the paper from me, then left. And class is almost over. And this is the longest class a day, over almost an hour and a half. And when he came back in, I said, where were you? He's up in Miss So-and-so's class. I said, no, you weren't. I said, you were post lunches. He said, I was. He didn't play against Stonewall that first half. We got down so bad, we couldn't come out. And the other one was the Madison game where I benched 4 of them for the grades. And we lost that. Where parent met me after the game, boy, and I said, nope, not going to change. Now, me and that parent are fine, but no, I don't think so, because I think that's wrong with some of our game today, some of our athletes today, and not just basketball, but anything. I think accountability is kind of, and we see it in every facets of life now. That it's eroding. And I learned so much, Dwight, from you. You know, every time somebody speaks, I learn. I learned from Sherman, Keith. I mean, there's some incredible minds out there that I listen to how they treat. You know, that's a good idea. You pick and choose, but with the kids and discipline, that's me, because I think we have to be that way. We're selling our souls.
Yeah. You know, and I appreciate you for that, because I know a lot of kids over there are going to appreciate it later. And I've seen in my 20 plus years living in Northern Virginia, even when I was a player at Virginia Tech, and even growing up in Newport News and Hampton, so many adolescents and even their parents live vicariously through them, or they think it's about the here and now. You want to win these games now, but then all of a sudden, when they graduate from Osbourn, if they don't have anything to help transition them to the life of adulthood, they're going to be right back hanging around at that Exxon station over by the South, Georgetown South, or coming around the fence at Osbourn Friday night games, talking about that used to be me, when you should be moving on to your next phase of your life. So if I haven't told you, I appreciate that, and I know other young men and women do. With that being said, you know, as a basketball coach, you've come over there, and on the court, you've now created a culture where between, you know, Battlefield, Patriot, and Osbourn, you're right there with them as far as wins and competition. And there's a winning culture there, where the expectation is you guys are going to be in it, and you're going to make sure your players understand how to compete. Even last year, you didn't have the same level of talent. You guys competed with guys like Manny and the other guys you have, where I enjoy watching you guys compete, where there was a culture and a mindset. The expectation was to play hard no matter the circumstances. You didn't make excuses for yourself. When you look at your time as a coach at Osbourn, I know a few years ago you guys got to the States. I came to every game I could. Is there a particular season where you learned a lot about yourself as a coach? Is there a season you remember at Osbourn you're like, you know what? If we don't get that call in the fourth quarter, we win it. I think we win it all. What's some of your most memorable seasons and teams that you enjoyed coaching?
I think my first year taught me a lot. That was an eye opener. Okay. Brian Frazier, whose son played for Woodbridge and Norfolk State, and as a DB, he was the one I called. And when Ira introduced me, we had kids on their phones, right, in the back, and I was talking, and I said, "Yo, young man, you know, you can't do that while I'm talking. After I'm talking, it's all you." So okay, fine. Then we have open gym, and the way they were treating each other, N-word this, MF for that. I said, I looked at Brian and said, it's going to take some time. We can't do this in 2 weeks, because we said 2 weeks. We got to give it some time. We can't put our thumb. Ain't nobody come here looking like me coaching this, whatever. That season taught me a lot of patience, and it taught me that I had to be patient, and I made a lot of mistakes that year. Made a lot of mistakes with regards to organization as far as how I communicate with parents. That was a big lesson I learned. Um, the best year was probably, I want to say, uh, my second year with that team, even though we couldn't get past Potomac because they coached themselves. And those are the players that were there before. And we still had a lot of stuff going on internally and school wise. And I was, but the way we came out and competed with Justin Vargo and Robert Aviles and Tyler Withers and these guys, I was so proud of them. We won. We beat Herndon that year with Gary Hall's squad. But fast forward, every year I'm very lucky, and I think it's a challenge. Last year, I'm so proud of. Listen, I'm proud of the back-to-back district titles. Don't misunderstand me. I really am. I'm proud of Donovan. I'm proud of Connor Withers. But I'm proud of them how they are as people. To watch them mature. And my philosophy has always been, if we get our kids better, we'll get better as a team, as far as individually and mentally. Every year I am very blessed to be coaching. This is a small fraternity, coach, and you know that.
Mm-hmm.
I read your tweets to your boys on the football team, and I just see the camaraderie and Derek Smith, and I've never had that. I've never been a part of something like that. I'm a part of something now, and it's my responsibility to get those kids as best as they can be. Last year was a challenge. That was a challenge. Manny had a tour rotator. Labrum,
Mm-hmm.
and two places, and you knew it, but he wasn't gonna. And then we lost a lot from that year before, where we lost South Lakes in the last second. There isn't. I am proud of every year that I'm given. I really am. I know that sounds cliche-ish, but they are family. Each of those kids are family, and they stay that way. And I know that's not really the question you asked,
No, you answered
but that's, each year is very special to me. This year is challenging,
it. Yes, it is.
and it's testing. It's testing all of us. But we've been given an opportunity, and I just hope we don't mess it up. But yeah, it's a challenge I'm looking for. I'm looking for it. I'm looking forward to it, but I worry about our kids.
Yeah. Coach, you mentioned the fraternity of coaches and how you listen to other people when they drop jewels and knowledge. And I'm the same way. I don't think you become successful at anything you do without being a great listener and paying attention to successful people. I played for some Hall of Fame coaches, and Coach Mike Smith, who still coaching at Hampton High, Coach Frank Beamer, who's a Hall of Fame coach. And I've heard both say to me in interviews, most recently, Coach Beamer, when he was on an interview, he talked about I was as good as my assistants. He talked about his assistant coaches being able, if he had to go away or if he had to work late, they would run the program the same way he would. Talk about some of your assistant coaches that you've coached with or coaching with now and the impact they've had on Osbourn. I know a few of them, but I just want to make sure you take time to recognize them.
Oh my God. And I do try to tweet this out, because you're right. A lot of, we do forget, because it's always us when we, it's all about the head coaches.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about, and that's not fair, because I can tell you we've been very lucky in having the same assistant coaches year in, year out. Now we've lost a couple, Jacoby Wells, who played at Mount St. Mary's. He went on to another career. But we've had the same coaching staff since, and I'm very proud of that. One of them's Karan White, who played for us, and so he coaches with us. But the one who started, he was the very first hire, was Luke Krismanich, who is Manassas City, and who wants to continue to do freshmen because he lays the foundation. It was funny because to have, when we had Connor and Donovan, okay, as freshmen, Connor was mainly a shooter. I watched Donovan the year before at Mets. He was a 5'11", big man and shot with like the alligator release, short arms and whatnot. And so I told Luke, I said, look, I said, we're gonna put them both on freshmen. He said, okay. He says, how's that gonna be received? I said, not good, I'm sure. I said, but we need them to go ahead. Like our players, we want our players to learn all positions. We don't want, when they come in as freshmen, we want them to learn to handle the ball. We want them to play on the inside, on the outside, because how many guards can defend the post, right? And how many big men can go out and defend the three? So I said, let them handle the ball. And I said, don't worry about wins and losses, please. Of course, everybody wants to win every game. And he did that. Now, the parents, they weren't too happy, but I take that back. Connor's mother was, because I had Tyler, and she understood. Don's mother was a little hesitant. I said I could put him on JV, but she understood. Donna was very upset. Connor was upset. But I think if you were to ask them now, they say it would be the great move, because they wouldn't have been able to have those opportunities on JV, because we already had point guards or guards or wings. So the assistant Luke did all that, and he only won 3 games that year because they handled the ball. They broke the press of the Patriots. So you have to have assistant coaches that aren't there for ulterior motives, that are there for your program. He was the first one I hired. He runs the program. They just say I'm the head coach, but he runs the program. Then we have a Jim Watson, who is just an old guy that comes in there, tall, docile as all get out, good man. And he does things for us that most people don't want to do. And we all have that. We all have that.
Yep.
But I am hard on them, and respectfully. And we got guys that are committed, and anybody that I've ever hired has to understand this is what we do, and the kids come first. That's it. The kids are first, and you can know. Unfortunately, there's been some that come in that you have to let go, but assistant coaches makes this thing work.
No question.
Us. They always have.
Yeah. Coach, you mentioned how you love Osbourn. You want to be there. You've had some great seasons, some great lessons. I know how it is as a player, and definitely as a coach. When you get home, even if you won by 19, you'll break down tape, and even on the way home, sometimes I'm driving like, oh man, I should have put him back in. I should have switched to a 1-2-2 track. You're always thinking, right? In this moment in time, right now, as we speak and do your legacy spotlight, you don't have to get long-winded or get in detail, but I am curious, as your friend and someone who enjoys watching you coach, and are there any, and we got to live with regrets, but are there any moments you look back on your coaching career so far and you look back, you know what? I learned so much about myself in this loss or this win. Is there a moment when you keep that, I got a pad, I'm always thinking, literally, they're all over my house. And you got one too? Yeah. Yeah.
I got notes all over.
I got me too, sticky notes. And I know we got to be that way. That's how we live. That's how we're wired. Is there a moment right now, just off the top of your dome, we can say, you know what, in 2000 such and such, man, if I could go back, or you know what, I learned so much about us. We lost that game, but I grew as a coach. Is there a game or a time that comes to mind? Not so much a regret, but just is there a game or something that comes to mind, like, you know what, if I could do it all over again, I would do such and such. Or I'm glad I made that decision. It was tough. It wasn't popular, but it made our team better.
I always have those. You said don't be long-winded. I mean,
no, I'm just saying because I know there's so many.
There are so many. Like I think one, and this has to do more with a player who was struggling, who wasn't doing the right thing, and then all of a sudden was, and there was we had a terrible death in Little Black.
Yep.
And who was a great kid, never got into trouble, was respectful. May not go to class every day, but he was respectful. We saw him in the hall. So a good kid, and that hit our guys very hard. And one of our kids in particular started going astray, and wasn't going to class and started lying. I mean, really bad. And the guy started lying to everybody, and his grades had tanked. And I said, he didn't come to practice. He didn't call. And he was mad because he didn't play the game before. And I let him go. And he tried to continue to go to school. He just wasn't in a good place. And that's something I will never forgive myself for. That's something that, and that was at the end of the season. We didn't have many games left. And there's nothing I can do to get that back. And I think about him every single day.
Is there something you take from that where moving forward you want to do differently? So now in the moment, as you reflect on it, as you coach now, as the season is almost upon us now, is it a mindset where, you know what, I'm going to do everything I can to save this kid? Because I've always said that the great leaders of our life, the great coaches, the great mentors understand the importance of evolving, to change, to adapt. How do you take that?
One thing that a piece of advice was given to me, that don't ever apologize to your team or blame yourself for something. And from a very respected coach, and I always question myself why, because I won't do that, because I'm gonna make mistakes. I'm gonna make it in front of them. I do the same thing in my classes. If I have jumped on people, and they didn't do jack, but I thought they did. And as time goes on, you get your relationship with your classes. They'll say, "Coach, it wasn't him. It was somebody else." And I'll apologize to them right there in front of the entire class. I've always tried. I always check myself. I always think I'm a forefront. I see ahead. And we had one player quit in my time, and I didn't see it coming. And I said, if you weren't having fun, if you guys aren't having fun, then you probably shouldn't be here. It's okay. I don't. And it was a player. I was shocked, and I blamed myself, because if I'm not making basketball fun for everybody, and I'm not talking about all the time. There's going to be times you're not having fun.
Sure.
But I do. I reflect on those all the time. But yes, I do. I have evolved even from those two incidences. And just as I do in my classes, I look at my players, and one thing that I've always done, and I have failed to do, and this is the wake-up call. When I was getting on them, Morgan Wooten always said that sandwich theory. Say what they need to do to kind of change this little bit. Nice, nice job, but you should do this, and then there you go, nice job. I wasn't doing that. And that player that quit, that woke me up to that. So I guess I've slowed down some mentally, and that I need to, I need never to forget my mistakes, and I will never forget my mistakes.
Sure.
Because if you forget your mistakes, you're condemned to repeat them. So
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I only have a few more questions. This question right here, I want to ask you just for our viewers and the players that may see this, and the parents who are excited about the possibility that we are going to go forward with the season. You mentioned, and it's very well documented, this is 2020. COVID-19 has changed our lives forever. We've lost people. The country's The students are learning virtually. You're teaching virtually. It's a challenge without question. Some districts across the state in the regions have postponed, and many of them canceled the season. For the most part, up here where we're at, the area, we're still good to go. Tryouts are coming up. What are you looking forward to as far as the season, and what are some of the things that are going to be different about this season as far as parents, players in the stands, and things like that?
Well, with us, there is no parents in the stands. I think players are excited to be there. I think one thing that's been taken away is the ability to go to class to check on players that may be struggling in class, and speaking with them and their teachers and so on and so forth. I'm excited to get back in there because I believe in the heart the kids need this. They need the opportunity. Now, one thing that I told my kids, and I actually told my AD after our school board meeting approved it, I said, okay, look, and I told our coaches, this is they've given us the opportunity. Okay, because it was a pretty heated discussion. Respectfully, our school board was awesome. I mean, they were going back and forth. But once, Mike Pflugrath and Ira DeGrood had their presentation, so on and so forth, and it passed, the first thing I did was a couple of kids excited, we're ready to go. No. Okay. We've been given the opportunity. Now, this is all on us. It's up to us now. We have to do our part. So we're going to be as careful as we possibly can. We're going to do everything that VHSL and Manassas City has implemented, and we're going to be as safe as possible. We were out there conditioning, and they said, don't be within 10 feet of each other. Dwight, I had a 10-foot pole. I swear to God. And I'm screaming, I said, 10 feet. I'm screaming the whole 10 feet. And and we did that, and we get a chuckle out of that. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm looking forward to. We're going to be young. I'm looking forward to Tay Barber, your player.
My guy.
I actually got a text from a coach last night saying he was watching Connor, and I said, hey, this player. I sent him some stuff on Tay, and I said, hey, this player, don't forget about him. I'll send you blah 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 because he always does. I said he's taking astrophysics. I said he's got straight A's, so there's that part. But you've done a phenomenal job with him, and he's an easy kid to coach. So he's itching. I think it's going to be a very interesting year. Listen, coach, and you know this, somebody's going to get it.
Yep.
Whether it's
contact tracing,
whatever.
Yeah, asymptomatic.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we've been given the chance. And if we really want to play, then we'll wear those damn masks that everybody's complaining about. And that just drives me freaking nuts. And let me just say that I am so proud to be a part of that group, of that coaches group, and that 703 thing that I'm just giddy about. But yeah, the mask, I mean, we just got to get over ourselves and put those masks on. That's the bottom line.
No, you're 100% right, Coach. And I'm glad you mentioned the 703 coaches group, because I've been blessed to meet some guys. Some of those guys I knew, but many of them have been on this show. Many of them will be on this show. But more importantly, it's just great to be around men who get it, who want to compete, who want to win district, regional, state championships, who want to get guys to the next level, but also understand it's bigger than us. And it's refreshing. And it's just been a blessing for me. And this interview has been a blessing for me. And Coach Carter, we're at the point of the show where this is our last question. And this is more so a chance for you to sign off on everything that you said through your last statement on this show. And that's, what is the game of life in basketball and the life lessons you've, all the issues, the challenges you overcome, the adversity you've met? You're a resilient individual. You believe in, the value of hard work, leadership, and mentoring. You've experienced personal trauma. You've had to deal with a lot in your life, but yet you wake up every day. You're a father, you're a grandfather, a husband. I've seen you with your kids when we've done other stuff non-related to Vicktory life. So I understand how much family is important to you. Most importantly, you never made excuses for yourself then or now. You're frustrated with COVID, but yet you still move forward and you wake up every day. And that's important. There's value in that. But with that being said, for the viewers watching your Legacy Spotlight that are going to see this interview, and even for times when it's on our YouTube channel, they click on it. What do you want to say that the life lessons have taught you throughout your life? Like, what would you tell people watching this about the value of hard work and sacrifice and not giving up? Not just to coaches, not just to parents and players, but to anyone. What would you say?
I would say that you do not know what's coming next. You may think you know based on your wants, your desires, or how you think things should be. Um, and I believe in God, and God doesn't work that way. You know, some people say He has a path, others says He gives you the opportunity. Um, but if you just act the right way, do the right thing, and just treat everyone with the respect that they deserve, everything else takes care of itself. May not be at the speed that you want it. You cannot make people like you. You cannot make people respect you. And one of the things, I don't have many friends because I guess that's one of the reasons. I don't probably have a filter. I probably should have a better one. But the friends that I do have, I cherish. Friends are important. Listen to the people who know. And that's what I've done. And I've got, if it wasn't for my wife, I wouldn't be here, and my kids. I am so blessed, Dwight, to have you as a friend. Tony Bentley, I consider a friend. Bobby Dobbs. I mean, I listen, to the Shermans, to the Keiths, to the Mike Flugraths, to Dr. Newman, and one of my favorite people that our superintendent, Sanford Williams. I mean, smart men. And I'm very blessed to be around people that I learned from to this day. At 58 years old, I still see a psychiatrist, for God's sakes. But I am blessed, and everybody keeps me grounded, and I'm very, very fortunate. But it's going to happen. If you want it to happen, you have to be patient, because I didn't get my first coaching job till I was 49 years old. So you have to be patient. You don't think you know when it's going to happen. You don't. Just be ready when it does.
And that's excellent advice, man, excellent insight. And I appreciate you, Coach. That was a lot of fun and very insightful. I appreciate you opening up, because I know you're a busy man. And I definitely think you're going to have an impact with people that see this interview. And I'm excited to see you coach again, because that means my season is pretty much done. I get to sit back and be a dad and a fan. People always ask me, man, you have such great relationships with some of these coaches. Who do you cheer for when Osbourn plays their school? And I said, I cheer for both coaches and both teams. And I just want to see a great game. And this has been a great interview, and you're a great man, Coach. And I'm just thankful that God put you in my life about 5, 6, 7 years ago. It's just been an honor to talk to you and get close with you, man. So with that being said, to all the people that support Osbourn Athletics, Osbourn High School, Coach Rocky Carter's family and friends, thank you for supporting Vicktory Life and Coach Rocky Carter. And like I say, every episode, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, make sure you live a positive impact and a great legacy. Thank you, Coach Carter. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Be safe.
You too. Thank you.
Yes, sir.